Centre Block, one of the country's most recognized buildings. It's the crown jewel of Ottawa's Parliament buildings and a fundamental symbol of Canada. Designed in the Gothic Revival style by John Pearson, it's an architectural masterpiece. A combination of immense size and scope with painstaking artistry and craftsmanship. It's reminiscent of Westminster, and yet it's uniquely Canadian. Walking through the hallways of Centre Block is like walking through history. Each room and space tell a story about the Canada that was, the Canada that is, and the Canada whose history is yet to be written. Home to both houses of Parliament, this building is often referred to as an icon of democracy. Within these walls, generations have helped to shape the Canada we know today through determination and defiance.
Again, I speak for all members of Parliament and for the Canadian people as a whole when I say that we are unreservedly determined to maintain our stand at Britain's side and at the side of the other nations that fight for freedom.
Through debate and discussion.
Today is a landmark for this government and indeed, sir, for all Canadians. Today, we are opening doors to opportunity and to equality in the workplace.
Hear, hear.
And through conflict and compromise.
Surely the worth of a government in the main is what it does for its people. The extent to which it improves the quality of their lives, improves their health care, gives them a greater measure of security, gives them a greater standard of moral values. That's what makes a nation great.
Here in the Senate chamber is where senators have met and debated national issues for nearly a century.
We have an obligation, it seems to me, to stand up for this country. We need to stand up for our provinces.
This is the role of the Senate, to provoke, to inquire, to make recommendations for improvement, to urge the government to consider our reflections.
It's also the venue for state ceremonies, including the opening of Parliament and the speech from the throne.
Prime Ministers believe that Canada's active participation in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is essential.
Events that are full of pomp, pageantry, and ancient traditions. Now Centre Block is currently closed. Since 2019, the building has been receiving a much-needed upgrade. And that's no small feat. It's a decade-long project with a completion date of 2031. The estimated cost is between $4.5 and $5 billion. Currently, there are more than 450 workers on the site daily, and that number will increase once the project reaches its peak. Bringing together a diverse range of experts in areas from engineering and construction to architecture, masonry, and restoration. It is the largest and most complex heritage rehabilitation project ever undertaken in Canada. At the helm is Jennifer Garrett. Since 2016, she's been the Director General of the Centre Block Rehabilitation Project and is currently an Acting Assistant Deputy Minister with Public Services and Procurement Canada. That's the government department responsible for overseeing Parliament Hill's buildings.
The building was actually in great need of restoration before it moved out. It looks beautiful, and to the naked eye when you walk through it, one might think that it was not in need of rehabilitation, but the reality is if you look closely, you will see the leaks from the roof, the places where the building has suffered quite dramatic change. And if we hadn't intervened into the building, we would be actually putting parliamentary operations at risk.
For Garrett and her team, the to-do list is extensive. There are also leaks from water and heating pipes that date back to the early 20th century, like these found in the basement. The ventilation system was designed for a time when wood-burning fireplaces heated offices. It now needs to be replaced. There are damaged sculptures, crumbling mortar, and cracked stones. If left unchecked, some of those sculptures and the stone around them would disappear. The concrete that supports the building is also deteriorating. One example, this column in the basement of the Peace Tower. And there's the steel inside and outside the building. It's rusting and breaking. The building hadn't undergone a major renovation since it was rebuilt after the fire of 1916.
When you get a building that's, in the 100 years range and you have an active parliament operating in it, the only time that you really get to do little tweaks to the building are during recesses and the summer period. And that is just sometimes inefficient to do some of the major rehabilitations that had to be undertaken in this building after 100 years. So that's why there was a deliberate plan put into place to actually create other accommodations for the chambers and for parliamentarians and their administrations, so we could empty this building and do what is required to it.
The plan saw MPs leave at the end of 2018 and move into a temporary House of Commons chamber in West Block. And senators relocated to the Senate of Canada building, formerly Ottawa's downtown railway station.
I'm happy to say that our operations did a great job of getting us to the finish line, but even then we were having at the end elevators breaking, water infiltration. We had a substantial leak about 3 weeks after the building shut down that would have definitely had an impact on parliamentary operations. So we made it. We made the building run till the end, but it was on its really last legs, and we were really worried about it having a significant impact on shutting down Parliament, which would be absolutely a catastrophe. We want our Parliament to run.
The Centre Block Restoration Project is now in full flight. The key part of a decades-long rehabilitation and modernization effort across the parliamentary precinct.
The 3 stages of construction are really essentially phase 1 involves taking the building apart. Phase 2 involves building those base building features back up, like doing structural upgrades and putting the mechanical systems in place. And phase 3 is the beautiful part of the job. It's the finalizing the features, fitting up the spaces and how they're going to look, putting those heritage features back in the building. Where we are at this current phase in the project for the center block is we've effectively finished that phase 1 and we're headed into phase 2. And what I mean by that is we've finished the extensive demolition and abatement program to remove designated substances. That finished in December 23. And now we're at the part of the center block program where we're starting to initiate the structural upgrades for the building. It takes a village to deliver projects like these. We do have a plethora and a range of broad-ranging skills working on the program because we're still designing as we construct. We're flying the plane while we design it, and that's a deliberate strategy on our part. And beyond that, as the design continues to evolve and gets to be finalized, those later packages with the finishes and final finishes will be released just almost like just-in-time delivery to the construction team. And that integrated effort allows us to optimize the schedule and ensure that parliamentarians get the building back as soon as possible.